Okay. Yay. Yay. Okay. I almost broadcast live in my pajamas this morning when I was trying to figure this out, and it said I was going live multiple times. And then I started to see people in the room. So at least I'm not in my pajamas. So how bad could things go at this point? Thank you so much for joining me. I know it was really last minute notice. It's because it took me like almost all day to figure out how all this stuff works. I think it adds an extra hour for every year over 20 you are to figure it all out, even though 10-year-olds do this on a daily basis. But I am starting to see a lot of people coming on, so I'm thrilled and good. No more echo. Okay. I am, first of all, really excited to do these. If it weren't for the fear of screwing them up, I probably would have tried to do this before. But what I want to try to do is keep these short and sweet and do normally do about 10 minutes of content on a specific point or piece or topic or need, and then 10 minutes of questions and answers so that I don't take up too much of your time, but yet there's a weekly touch base. Because I think there's so many things that come up and so many things that shift with the year. And then between your questions and just things that maybe hit me, it's a great way to get things out and keep things current. So today I thought I would vary it a little bit because I really want to have a feel for what you want, what you would like to see, even in terms of time, because I thought Sundays were a good time to do this with some help from some friends who made those suggestions. So if there are particular times that you're more interested in, if you want to shoot those to me in the comments as well, if it's better in the afternoon or the morning, if Sunday's not the best day. And then also throughout this whole time, aside even, outside of the time where we're going to do questions live, if you want to shoot, topics, things specifically that you would like to see. Today, what I thought for the first at least 5 minutes, and then I wanted to keep the rest more Q&A because there's so much to try to figure out and to glean about the best way to do these to get the most bang for the buck. What I wanted to just hit on is something I actually had posted on Facebook just before the live broadcast. And it was about something that I talk about in every single conference, but it's about 4 out of 10. And this was actually a study that was done looking at the preparatory programs for teachers. Teachers, we're certified to do ELL. We're certified to teach a specific grade or a specific subject area. We're certified for, it seems like, everything under the sun. The one thing that we aren't really prepared for, though, is, of course, the science of teaching reading. So I was kind of stunned to see the actual numbers that went along with that. I know that in terms of reality of how many programs are actually preparing teachers with that content piece, but it was interesting to see the survey and the study that it was less than half have any knowledge of the science base of reading in terms of deans that are assessed and looked at or questioned, not just about what their programs consist of, but about what they know personally. And most of them do focus on philosophies. And then teachers will do the same, to the point where people, at least some that are really struggling with reading, and this is where, my real passion lies, is getting the easy pathway into the hands of teachers that are taking the long way around. But some professors don't actually believe in that science of what is teaching reading, because it's under that umbrella of phonics. So what I want to do, and what my aim is for these, is to try to maybe find a third middle ground, which is redundant, but somewhere between, phonics and even balanced literacy is the brain science. The brain science, I see balanced literacy as patterns and context, but even balanced literacy has kind of become, for many, a term for more open-ended practice that may or may not be very balanced. So the brain science just keeps it honest, keeps it even, and really keeps phonics in perspective. And phonics is nothing without fun. Therein lies the fun phonics piece of this for reading instruction and teaching with the brain in mind. Phonics, as all instruction, should be based on learners' need to know. And learners who are 5 and 6 and 7, or struggling learners who are older, one thing that we need to know is how to have fun. One thing that we're drawn to is fun. So when something is pulling our attention and calling our name and begging us to engage, it's because there's something in it for us. And for kids, capturing their attention, the phonics might be what you have in your back pocket to kind of slip in that back door, but it's not what's going to wave the flag of attention. So everything that we do is really geared toward getting that student buy-in and using the pieces of the brain science that tell us specifically how we can do that. which is that need to know. Brain loves novelty, looking at things coming out of the blue, getting that immediate attention, that heightened state of alert with body gestures, vocal inflections, see it, say it, do it, feel it. All those things I've tried to wrap up in those secret stories. Every secret stories piece to give these skills to kids, not teach them, not phonics instruction with workbooks and slashes and dashes, but to give these skills so that they are just non-consciously just sucking it up. And if you teach secret stories, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you may not think that's possible, but non-conscious, just taking in almost through osmosis these higher level capabilities like superpowers before they're maybe even able to use them for the purpose that we're giving them to or for. And that's kind of a whole nother topic for a blog. But having that ability to have those little secrets that when mixed with your teacher expertise, which is another thing I really want to pull out of these Sunday sessions, is your way of your pot of expertise that you drop the secrets into, because each secret's kind of it's backloaded with this kid charge that's going to connect them to the skill, but it's powered up by what you do in the classroom, by your personality, the way you toss it out there, the way you make it your own. And I see so much from so many different folks that I meet everywhere. So many different ways that they go about kind of pulling this one little piece that is the code into their repertoire, their pot of expertise, to really make everything they're doing, whatever the reading series is, whatever the spelling list might be, to really amp up and kind of maximize the instructional density of every single piece of their day, so that there's no part of the day that's going untapped. You know, kids read and write across the entire instructional day, but my favorite phrase that I've been saying, it seems like obsessively, is, but with what? Because if they're in kinder or if they're in first, you know, they're at second, you know, they're reading and writing across the day, but it's 3 to 4 years to get access to the whole code as far as grade level, scope, and sequence. So when we really sit back and ask ourselves with what, that should really kind of straighten out what's happening in the universities. It should straighten out this philosophy versus science argument, because you have to have something to read and write with. Otherwise, we know this as teachers, we spend all of our instructional time memorizing, like directors that have actors around a table read. And we're memorizing what they have to know, the words they have to learn in order to read whatever the book is, or to pass whatever the test is, or to do whatever the guided reading requires. And memorizing isn't reading. Memorizing is what actors do. And then it's gone. And then you have the summer slide. So all of this to say, this argument, this gap between what we know about the brain and how we still teach kids to read on a traditional kind of path, it's that gap that I want to play with in these Sundays. So if you have suggestions for even just a better name than Secret Story Sunday, it's this gap between what we know about the brain and how we teach kids to read, where I want to play and poke and prod and just dig. And I want to do it with you. And my hope is keeping it in that open mind frame of not phonics, not whole language, not balanced literacy, not anything that is got a label on it that's going to draw, you know, people to arms on one side or another, or thwart a philosophy that someone might have had for 20 years. I don't even want to get into that whole piece. I really just want to open it up to looking at this void that is just, I see as not yet tapped. It's really the hardest thing I think teachers have to do, which is deal with the code. And yet it can be the easiest thing that they get to enjoy throughout the day. So I just want to bring every teacher that struggles with this thing called the code. I want to kind of bring them into this paradigm shift of a new way of thinking about what we do and how we do it. And I really want you all to help me. So not just help me here, and I know my 10 minutes are up, so I'm going to go to Q&A, but not just help me here, help me when you're out, when you're around in the world, and you're seeing teachers so stressed out and so frustrated, and especially at this time of year with testing and kids not making the gains that they need to. And of course, you know, we know that phonics is just one piece of what reading is all about. But if that one little teeny piece of that recipe isn't in place and handled, it wreaks havoc with the entire pot. So your vocabulary, your fluency, your comprehension, all those other pieces are thrown out of whack and almost blockaded from your ability to work with and teach them if you don't have this one little piece handled, beefed up, and and perfected in your kind of your special teaching stew and brew. So that's the piece that we're going to focus on every time we meet. And I hope that that's also the piece that you can share with other teachers, especially at this time of year when you see how stressed out they are. Not so much sharing secret stories, but sharing this paradigm shift, this mindset of looking at the brain science and using it as a roadmap to really carve out a path between what we do and what we know about the brain when it comes to teaching reading. So with that said, I do see some things, and this will be a real test of my ADD inability to see if I can read, talk, and answer all at the same time. So, and I do see somebody that mentioned, and it's Tara Deller, about pre-K. Yes, 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 yes. All of the brain science is focused on the earliest possible grade levels. And really, pre-K is the new kinder. You know, if orange is the new black, pre-K is the new kinder, because pre-K is doing everything that kindergarten used to do. Pre-K is not anymore about preparing kids to learn. Kids are supposed to be learning in pre-K because kinder's the new first. So kindergarten is going to be tested. Kindergarten's got to be here at this time of year on this month. And it doesn't matter if their shoes in their mouth and they're still licking the carpet. This is where they need to be on the 15th of October. So gone are the days when, you know, we could prepare kids to become ready to learn. They need to hit the ground running and ready to learn, and hopefully with their bag already filled up from having been in pre-K. But the beauty of the brain science is that's fine. That's fine, because we're not teaching, we're giving. So we're using stories, we're using songs, we're hitting those backdoor channels, those same channels that let them remember who the line leader is, who the line leader was, who's not allowed to sit next to who, and who gets to be the door holder. Those pieces of those areas in the brain that hold those pieces in place so easily, those are the areas we're tapping. So it's okay if they have their shoe in their mouth and they're licking their carpet, the lick carpet. We don't need them to stop doing that to tell them a story that happens to have a little golden nugget in it. That if they're ready to kind of pick it up and use it, it's already there. They already own it. We front loaded it in. And the same thing with the songs. So pre-K, I am thrilled to have pre-K teachers here, just thrilled. And I do get really frustrated when I see what how Head Start can tie your hands and almost make it an off limits thing for you to talk about letters and sounds. But I think they're talking more about front door. When you're going through the back door, all bets are off. You have total flexibility to do whatever you want because it's just a story. It's just a song. It's just play. It's play-based learning with power-packed skills kind of buried inside. I also see some different day suggestions, which are great because that's incredibly important and needed to make sure that it's convenient for all of you. I also see things about mid-year testing. Oh, yay. I see that those that are doing the secret stories, and I've gotten so much of this data sent to me. At this time of year, a lot of data is coming in, and I always love hearing, although I can't say I'm surprised, and I wouldn't even take credit for it as far as secrets go, or even as far as teachers go, because secrets are only as powerful as you are in putting them out there, making them your own, and giving them to kids to make their own. But having said that, the gains that I'm seeing where the classrooms that are using the secrets are so much higher than those that are not. It's not so much about the secrets per se, it's that they have access. They have more to read and write with. You know, it's almost an unfair fight because they're getting these tools, these pieces of the code 2 years before they're supposed to have them. So if they're in kindergarten, not only are they getting individual letter sounds in the first 2 weeks to 2 months, and not just getting them with a checkoff list, they're using them, putting them together to make words, taking them apart to figure out what those words are. They're manipulating them because those individual letter sounds are powered up with a couple of secrets under your belt. So it's interesting to see how much easier it is to reinforce those individual letters and sounds when you got a few secrets in your back pocket, because that's when text starts to make sense. Just like it's easier to understand why you might want to toss out a secret to a kindergartner who doesn't know all their letters and sounds. When you start to see that even with 10 or 11 individual letters and sounds, those secrets start to make more sense. So in other words, one is only as powerful as the other. Secrets don't really power up and work till they have some of those individual letters, and individual letters don't really power up and do much till they have a few secrets. But it's the combination of both building simultaneously, not waiting for one to be mastered before you serve the other, because that's waitress thinking. We want a buffet. And when you do that, when you offer, you're doing that Better Alphabet song every single day. And if you don't know what that is, you can see it in these vlogs on this YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it in the description so you can find it. It shows you how to do it. You just start doing it. Those individual letter sounds go through muscle memory. It takes 2 weeks to 2 months in pre-K and kindergarten. Simultaneously, that toss out a secret. toss out another secret. Use the secrets as keys to unlock doors as you're looking at things and you're seeming like you're lying. You can't tell kids in good faith that capital A says on your alphabet train when you're singing your alphabet song, and then point to the word on the calendar that says August. Because if anybody's paying any attention to you at all, then they're going to notice that something doesn't make any sense, because you just said that letter was supposed to say or A. There's a whole nother letter that you said is going to say and that ain't it. So we want to always make sure that we are working with the brain as a pattern making machine. And as kids start to wake up, smell the coffee, and come on board, they'll start tuning in and kind of taking little tastes from that buffet. We want to make sure it's always there, it's always clear, and it's always working with the brain system of pattern making. So all that to say, thank you. I'm thrilled to see that the strongest growth is with those secret story classrooms. And like I said, I've gotten a lot of data from different grade levels saying that, and sending in the student assessments, whether it's just individual letter sound mastery for the early grade levels in the first 9 weeks, to at this point where their reading levels are, how many are on grade level, and even where they're starting to encroach into first and even second grade guided reading as they're gaining more and more of the code. And again, it's not a fair fight. The more the code you have, the more you can do with it. So if a non-secret stories teacher is just using her scope and her sequence to decide what to introduce and to teach through the front door, those kids are moving at a snail's pace, and they have this much access to the code. And of course, you need maximum access to the code to do anything with it. And the last example I'll give before I jump into these great questions and comments is, and if you've heard me at a conference, I've said this before, but if you haven't, I want to throw it out just so you're on the same page. It's very likely that a child in kindergarten or first grade might have a mouse, and they might want to write about that mouse at journal time because they're really excited about all the cool stuff that they can do with their mouse. So they sit down to do that. And the problem with that is that they can scan your alphabet train all day long, and they're never going to find the letter up there that says ow, because it doesn't exist. It's not there. There's an O, but O doesn't say ow. It says ah or O. The letter that says ow isn't there. There is no letter that says ow. It's a phonics pattern. It's actually a phonics skill, and it sits nice and neatly on the second grade scope and sequence, which is a shame, because if I have to wait that long to get it, my mouse will be dead by then, and I won't care about writing about him anymore. So I need that sound now, because for what I'm interested in, for the story I want to tell, that's what I need to do it. And I probably am going to want to go to the library, and I'm going to want to get a book about my mouse to read about him. And I won't be able to do that either, because the powers that be that created our textbooks decided that I don't need that part of the code until mid to end of year second grade, which is just beyond ridiculous. So I'm not saying that your reading series is bad. Your reading series is awesome. It's your playground to really flex your muscles as a reader and writer. But it is absolutely not the way, or it is not the tunnel through which you want to introduce access to the code. As a matter of fact, you want to break down those grade level walls, because we have this open access, readily accessible, and earlier developing backdoor to carry and take them through these pieces of the code. So we don't want our reading series scope and sequence to block access to the code. We want to open access to the code, and then let kids dig deeper into the reading series and our curriculum that we're doing on a daily basis. There's so much fun to be explored. There's so many stories to tell. There's so many books that are going to call kids names. And we want to really dig and play with those opportunities throughout the entire instructional day, because the more tools we bring to the table, the more value our kids are going to take away. And that's a lot of time spent reading and writing across the day. So always just ask, with what? What do my kids have to read and write with? And hopefully that also will keep you from being tempted to introduce like one secret a week, or to not give them or have access. Buffet's nice. They don't put one food out every hour. They lay it all out, because they don't know who's going to need what, or what you're going to get a hankering for, or how fast or how slow you're going to eat. So they just lay it all out there and make sure that you know where it is, what it's for, and they just facilitate your access. Let things come up as it does. Text is the great introducer. Everything you would ever want to know will be introduced and come up in a day with the code. You certainly don't need to toss it all out immediately, but give them what's going to get them through the door that you're facing in that moment, whatever it is that the need might be to read that word or to spell that word, or in a whole group writing activity. And we'll get into all these things specifically on later posts, but give them that access to the code so that we don't hold them back from what they need to do the work we're going to give them every day, all day. Anyway, starting really in pre-K, not even in kinder. Okay, now I'm going to hit some of these questions because my alarm tells me that I have 5 minutes, which is because I can't ever stop talking because I get so excited. I love, Melissa, that you said your kid's writing has improved. That's awesome. And that kind of goes right along with what we were talking about with testing. Testing for reading, the more you have to do it with, the more you're going to be able to do. And writing is reading. I heard Jen Jones, who I was so impressed with, and she's such a generous, thoughtful, kind, patient person. We were speaking at a conference and she was showing me all this tech stuff, which I thought, well, she only knows this because she's 30. And I was wrong. She's actually my age, which made me just feel even dumber. But I heard her say something that is just another great analogy for, I say reading is writing backwards. She says reading is breathing in and writing's breathing out. You need the same stuff to do both with, and doing both just gives you the inside and outside perspective to just deepen that level of ownership and deepen the gut. Deepen the gut ownership for just easier capability with each. So those tools, those secrets, every one more you have is one more step closer to reading and to writing what you want. I see so many great things here. Let's see. I see about sight words. Oh boy, don't even get me started. Sight words. That's a whole probably 4 Sunday nights. Sight words are just the hoops you have to jump through when kids can't read. So that's pretty much what it is. So if they can read, then you don't need the sight word. I posted something today about, a teacher gave me this at a conference, and I thought it was the cutest little thing ever. She made a little book with her students, just to show you real quick. This is Mommy E. Don't know how well you can see it, but if that's not the cutest Mommy E ever, I don't know what is. We know kids love to see themselves, second only to loving to hear secrets, which make things important to kids. So because she was so kind to not break any copyright issues, she let the kids become the secrets, which I loved. But I posted this because it's just a real quick, simple example for people that maybe don't know what secrets are, but clearly you've got that sound going on there. So you don't have to memorize a word like her or bird or turn. If you don't know the sound and it's not that fast to come to your head, then bird is ba-i-ra-da, and her is ha-e-ra, and turn is ta-a-ra-na, which of course means you got a lot of memorizing to do. So sight words, the big Cracker Jack prize in the box when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into memorizing a sight word is you get one word. When you know a secret, you get thousands of words. And sight words that are decodable are actually great baby practice. They're great baby steps to higher level decoding. So even though we do want speed, and I think sight word games and activities are fine if you're doing them with kids who can read them, because being able to read them means you're just speeding up that process, since these are high frequency words, and that's great. That's fine. You just don't want to negate the stepping stone of giving them the tool they need to read it, because whatever tool it is they need to read that sight word, they're going to be able to maximize tenfold to read thousands of other words that aren't simple one syllable words like her, or na, turn. So if you can handle those as a reader, you'll be prepared for reading multisyllabic words that have multiple secrets in them. So sight words are not just a great kind of playground for practice. They are preparing us for everything we need to do with higher level text, and they're high frequency. So we get lots and lots and lots of practice reading them, not memorizing them. Memorization can fly with the wind, especially over the summer or over Christmas break. So we don't want to put our time into the reading. We want to put our time into the reader, because that time's not lost. That bank account's not going to go anywhere. I see so many more things, and I'm going to go ahead and take some questions right now because I see so many just great comments. But I see one about asking the little, buying the little cards to take with you. There are little cards now that have the secrets on the front and the stories on the back. And I don't have one in my hand, but certainly if that's an idea that after we're done, you leave in the comments is something you want me to talk about, I can, because there are some folks that have done some great things with them. Tara Suttle says, something that I love, which is I, to be honest, I never thought of it. This is why you guys are such a wonderful resource for me, because you're mixing and mushing and kind of infusing things that are happening in your schools, in your districts, in your states with different initiatives. And you're just kind of beefing up this little one piece of the recipe even more. So getting your twists on the recipes helped me. And I know Tara had said that, it was a whole nother level of secret stories when they came off the walls. And I've been bugging her to do something called Secret Stories Off the Walls, because this is such an obvious thing, but it just didn't it didn't occur to me either, because they were always on the walls, and they need to be on the walls. You have to have secret stories on the walls because that's what kids are going to use when they're trying to read or write from anywhere and everywhere in the classroom. But that doesn't mean that they can't be engaging with them. So I had those placards, those space saver placards, for that purpose. And those are great. Those are handy. And that was the reason for it. They're hands-on manipulatives. But what Tara's done is kind of take it to another level, which is have those mini cards and use those as well for different types of manipulation alongside those bigger placards. And you can see this on her post. I think it's called the brain-based gas that makes learning go. But it shows you lots of different ways to really bring the secrets, get the secrets off the walls, and get kids engaging with them to see those connections more fluidly. If you have sight words that kids are going to use secrets to crack, Tara would put a secret up, like the ERIUR secret, and then the sight words would go around it like a circle chart. So the kids could actually keep bringing it back instead of having, we're still modeling where it lives on the wall. That's key. We don't want to move things around as the anchors on the wall because it's hard enough for kids to keep track of what's where on the wall. But that doesn't mean that there can't be this other, more hands-on manipulative set where they can see the immediate connection to maybe the title of the share group writing and what secret they needed to get certain words in it. Or I know another post that was done that I loved. Part of her post, I think, was, looking at the second week of the Journeys reading series and seeing, I think there were 17 words in the Journeys reading series the kids couldn't have read without the secrets. And there were just 4 secrets that they needed. But those 4 secrets got so much brain bang for the buck because instead of having to memorize 17 words kids wouldn't otherwise have been able to read, they were able to learn 4 secrets to not just knock out those 17 words, but tens of thousands of other words that will be in the next book and the next book and the next book. So it's just why work hard if you can work smart. And there's so many teachers out there right now. If you look at these Facebook groups, they're struggling with what should be the easiest thing that they could possibly teach. And it's killing them, and it's really killing their kids, and we're losing kids. This gap between what we know about the brain and how we teach kids to read, there are thousands of kids falling right through it every single day, every single year. I actually just sent a letter to Jennifer Garner and made my husband drive me in the blizzard to the post office to mail it. And he's going to say I'm nuts for sharing this because he's going to say, now everybody's going to think you're crazy. But I do work with Save the Children. One of my friends is Anna Hardway. She was a director in West Virginia for a literacy initiative for Save the Children. And Jennifer Garner and I are both from West Virginia. And she is phenomenal in getting the word out, just to help kids that are the most likely to fail, the ones that aren't going to get what right now traditional phonics instruction requires, which is repetitious use and practice, time on text, books at home, access to books, parents at home, someone keeping the summer slide from, taking a nosedive when they're not with us and reading and writing in the classroom. If you're going through the front door, those variables are out of our control, and we will lose kids every single year. And the kids we're going to lose are, without a doubt, those kids first. Then we have the kids who just need certain processes to be in place in order to learn to read, because they're not going to go from A to B to C like a typical kid might. So those groups specifically are a big part of her focus, especially the high poverty schools. When you're going through the back door, things really shift and they change. So I sent her, she has a 6-year-old son, and he has some writing online. So I sent a couple secrets that, first of all, he's obviously got nailed, and then a couple secrets that might be helpful with some of what he had written. If you check out our Instagram, you can see what I'm talking about. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe she can help kind of get that gap to close by bringing some attention to that, because she's a tremendous pioneer, not just for students, but for teachers. She really gets a lot of attention on things that we need to know about. So I'd like her to maybe put some attention on where we can run and what we can do right now and not have to wait to do it. Okay, secrets are still with struggling students. Yeah, struggling students are an example of the group I'm talking about. High poverty, there's often an overlap, but that's not really the struggling students may often be high poverty students because of the reasons that I said, which is front door requires repetitious use and practice, which we know off the bat a lot of our kids aren't going to get. But you can also be a struggling student with a parent that reads to you every single night. Access to text, we know, is not the only, it is not the guaranteed pathway to becoming a reader. Not all kids just learn to read by being read to. There's actually a natural process in the brain that you go through, or that instruction should go through, to make sure that we catch those learners that aren't going to learn in the typical traditional way. And there's so much research on that. I'll actually post some links that are just really fascinating. I like to work in between the research and the hands-on practical application, because I think sometimes the research can seem lofty, given that we're looking at a kid with his shoe in his mouth and trying to figure out how to connect the dots there. But the research really is that is the mindset. That's where we can be versus where we are. And the research isn't something in the future. It's right now. We know it now. These advancements are there now. We're just not really using them. It's not a full-blown effort yet. So struggling learners, absolutely. They are the quintessential backdoor learners. Every learner learns better when you're teaching with the brain in mind, but think of it like a river with a current. Strong swimmers, when the current's pushing behind them, well, they're going to look bionic. I mean, they're going to look like, an Olympic swimmer. But a weak swimmer is going to at least make it to the other side. If you put them in a pool where the current's pushing against them, your weak swimmers are going to drown the minute they let go of the wall. Your strong swimmers might make it across, but they've got to work twice as hard to get half as far. So everybody does better when you're swimming with the current, when you're aligning your instruction with how the brain learns. But those struggling learners, those backdoor learners, ELL learners, high poverty learners that aren't going to get access to text, or that aren't able to connect dots with text, or that have big holes in skill ability at the upper grades, they're an absolute necessity for teaching with the brain in mind, especially when you have to make up for lost time for years without being a reader or writer. Okay, and I'm going to take a few more questions because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I told myself I was going to stay on time, so I'll just look and see if there's a couple more. Wish I didn't have to do it in secret. Our required I love sharing the secrets. I wish I didn't have to do it in secret. Our required phonics program, RH isn't in line with it, and it forces us to hold back so many rules. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. First of all, there is not a person in the world that is in an educational position that would not tell you to put meaning where there otherwise wouldn't be. Ever. So no matter what your program is, and you can tell me after the fact, you can PM me and let me know what it is, but whatever it is, and it doesn't matter what it is, Secret Stories is not a program. District folks are going to assume it is, they're going to think it is, they're going to expect it to be, because that's what everything is. It's not. It is the thing that you say to put meaning where there otherwise wouldn't be. That's it. It's literally that simple. And there's nobody in education that's going to say, no, don't put meaning with it. Don't explain, don't make it make any sense. We don't want it to make sense. Just teach it the way it says on page 16. You don't have to abandon doing page 16. What you will be, it's like with the reading curriculum. Districts don't want to hear that the brand new phonics curriculum that they bought you don't need. You don't want to say that. You're just putting meaning where there would otherwise be none, so that you don't have to do the repetitious practice that otherwise you would have to do to get a skill to go down. If you have a way to make something make sense, you don't have to practice it. So if your workbook page says to do page 16 and it's on TH, but you're not supposed to do the WH or the CH or the SH or the PH until next week and the week after and the week after, don't block access to those parts of the code until they are introduced in whatever your reading or your phonics series is. Go ahead and give them access when the opportunity arises. It might be on that TH page, because they might be writing a sentence that, in order to write the sentence using the sound, they're going to say, this is my sister's phone. So when they get to the word phone, that's a great time maybe to let them know the secret. Or if you're doing a whole group writing activity and use theirs as an example to do it with, how would you not hold back the PH sound? That's my husband telling me that I should probably stop talking too long. How would you not hold back the sound that they need to dive deep into that TH work? So in other words, there's no reason not to give access to what kids need, even if you're using, what you've got in your hand to do it with. And you will be using what you have. Your phonics series, your reading program, they're going to offer awesome playgrounds for kids to really dig deep and enjoy and explore their newfound abilities as readers and writers. Just never hold back the code. And really, that's as simple as you can let anybody know that questions you is, I'm not teaching another program. I'm just not holding back the code. Because everything that they need to do with the code is going to consist of putting words together and taking words apart. So whatever you're doing and whatever the scope and sequence says, like with that post Tara was doing in the Journey series, she had to read words in that level 2 Journeys reader that consisted of skills that sat on second grade scope and sequence. So your alternative is either wait until second grade or memorize the heck out of those words. So obviously we want to jump in, give them what they need to read it, and then use that week 2 story. So we're still using your curriculum. You're just going to make sure that you're not blocking access to skills that kids need today to do what's on the plate for your curriculum and program today. And I am excited to find out what RH is, because I'm curious what what that would be. But it should never interfere with anything you're doing. It just sits underneath it to make it bigger, stronger, and faster. Kind of like the steroids that you take to run whatever the race is that you're running. Oh, that's a terrible example. I mean, like phonics on steroids, not like steroids like that you would take, like steroids like for phonics to do your stuff that you have to do, not real steroids. Okay, or the kind that make your cold get better. Okay, now I am supposed to wrap up, so I'm going to see if there's anything else that is a question I need to answer. Teachers, don't be afraid. Oh yes, that's so true. Don't be afraid. The worst that you can do is tell a story that might not have a skill in it that they're not ready to plug in that day. But you can't ever go wrong telling a story. Nobody ever regretted telling the story about Snow White or reading the story about Cinderella. It's just a story. It's just a song. It's just play. That's it. That's all it is. Kids will look at your buffet, and the ones that want it will take it. The ones that don't will just look at it and eat their peanut butter sandwich, and that's fine. They know where it is. They know what it looks like. They can get back to it again. And meanwhile, you're going to be modeling it all the time anyway. So never be afraid to toss something out. There's no harm, no foul. Okay, and I see so many great things that I would love to touch on. There are not Spanish resources, and for some reasons that I'll actually do a 10-minute post about another time. Although I'm open to any suggestions you have, I can show you where my disconnects were on that, or talk to you about that in that session. But that's a great topic. And I just love that. I wish you didn't have to do it in secret. I really am. That'll be a topic for another post as well. So I'm going to wrap it up. I am still happy to answer questions. I just don't want to make you stay online long. So any questions that you still have, that's just food for what's going to happen in the next Sunday. I plan on doing this every single Sunday. I do see one question I'm going to throw out there. It's, can you use this with Orton-Gillingham? Yes, 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 yes. First of all, again, you can use this with anything, because all it is it's just putting meaning where there would otherwise be none. So that you don't have to say it just is, it just does. You just have to remember, that's it. Orton-Gillingham, there's a great couple of posts that an Orton-Gillingham literacy specialist actually wrote. You'll see them on the blog. And Orton-Gillingham is actually one of my favorite approaches, because although it kind of meanders between the front and the back door, it's very multisensory in the approach, and it does not leave any stone unturned, which is why I love it. But it does take a lot of training, and those that do it are very knowledgeable about all of the not just phonics, but about morphology in general. They have such incredible and broad training that those teachers go through to be Orton-Gillingham certified. And the secrets are something that you can boost someone that doesn't really know much about anything in terms of reading. A new teacher, an older teacher, someone that's got their own entire kind of game plan constructed from years of experience versus someone who has no game plan at all. So it's a quick way to just make things make sense. Orton-Gillingham's going to flesh that out. It's going to give opportunities to manipulate and practice, like a phonics series, like a reading series. But again, I really like Orton-Gillingham just because of its mindset, its approach. But you'll see those blog posts about what the Secret Stories does to kind of, again, beef it up and extend access. Because at the end of the day, the one thing you want is access to as much of the code as possible, as soon as possible. The only other thing I should say, and I do want to say, and I see Elizabeth's talking about using it with Orton-Gillingham, so she's on there live if you want to connect with her directly, or like I said, connect with the one that did the blog. The one other thing I do want to say is, the only time I could see a good devil's argument for what I'm saying about that there's nothing that you wouldn't be able to put meaning behind to make it better, stronger, faster. Let's say you use Phonics, or let's say you use something where there is like a Letterland, something where there's another story that explains why CH says ch or why WH says what. There are two things that still make the Secret Story something you can stick underneath it to boost it. One is that it's still grade specific. You don't want to be grade specific. That's actually one of the other things I like about Orton-Gillingham. It's not grade specific. It's fluid. You still need to accelerate the pace of the whole code. And you can do that when you put meaning where there wouldn't be, because it's not practice based, which is again, what you'll see as this flow chart that's on this blog post between Orton-Gillingham and Secret Stories and why they work well together. But it's access to the code that seems to be completely separating Secret Stories from what's there in terms of our published teacher resources. Everything wants to give a first grade grouping of what you're supposed to teach and a second grade grouping of what you're supposed to teach, or a pre-K grouping or a kindergarten grouping. You can't do much with pieces of the code. You need all of it to do really anything with it. So one thing is breaking down those walls. The other thing is there's good, better, best with brain-based teaching. Anytime you can put meaning where there otherwise wouldn't be, that's good. But better and best is when you can pull meaning from what kids already understand. from familiar thinking constructs that are already deeply entrenched in their learning system. So we're going social emotional. We're looking at the social emotional domain. The brain develops back to front, whole nother Sunday talk, but the earlier developing area is that social emotional piece. And if you can tie your story that you're using to connect meaning to a phonics pattern, to something that comes from what learners already completely understand and know like the back of their hand, then you take a step out of the dance. You know, it's not Apple Annie and Farmer Fred go off in a boat with Chippy the chipmunk, and then they see Apple Alligator and they go, but they're allergic to hayweed, and they go, cha, and that's why CH says cha. It's not some crazy thing with arbitrary actions and characters that kids have to actually learn that. And then once they learn that, then they can apply it to whatever the word was they were trying to read and write, which by the time they learn that, they may have forgotten what the word was they're trying to read and write. The secrets are something that connects with what they already understand. I know sneaky Y is going to be sneaky at the end because that's where I'd be sneaky. If I were going to smack Susie over the head, not as the teacher, as the kid. If I'm going to hit my friend over the head, I'm not going to do it when I'm the line leader. That's where I'm going to be like this. Because every kid knows your line leaders have to do exactly what they're supposed to. But I will be sneaky when I'm the caboose. That's when you're likely to see me be sneaky. So positional sounds of Y becomes very simple because kids can easily know where Y is most likely to be sneaky and where those capes that he took from superhero E and superhero I. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will put a link in the description for that as well. So you can learn that secret quick and toss it out. Give it to your kids tomorrow. Because it's a super fast way to give kindergartners access to a piece of the code that they're not going to get until second grade, which is ridiculous and way too long to wait to figure out what the heck is up with Y, because Y is all over our calendar. And if all kids know is Y says yeah, then they're going to see words on that calendar like July and May and January, and they're going to see big books that are by a certain author, and they're going to see the boys bathroom. To them, they're going to think Y can say E, and it can say I, and it can say A, and it can say oi. The only thing they can be sure about is it's not going to say the one thing you're teaching them, which is it's going to say yeah. That's what's on our assessment to teach, to reinforce. And yet that's the least likely thing they're ever going to see the Y actually saying in real text. And those are the kind of things we're set up to fail with when it comes to trying to work against the brain. So on that note, I am going to finally muzzle myself and I'm going to stop talking so that I respect your time and don't take up your Sunday night. But please join me next Sunday, and I will be looking at all of your input to see what the best time is going to be, or if Sunday is even the best day. Again, in the comments, if there's a different day, a different time, please comment, let me know. Topics, suggestions for things you'd like to see, hear, learn about. Questions, I will even try to go in and answer questions specifically tonight, even if they're put in after the fact, just since I'm here, and that way I won't take up your time, but I can address something if it went by on the feed too fast for me to catch it. And then if you have a great name for this, because you guys are already here, which means you guys are already in the loop. You understand and know the difference that you can see when you don't do things the way you've always done them. It's all those folks that aren't here that I really want to inspire to come and not be intimidated or worried or think, oh, great, one more thing I'm gonna have to do. Well, I've already got this new program. I'm not gonna start this. It's not a program. It's a way to take all the other stuff off of your desk, except for the pieces of it that are actually useful, the reading and the writing pieces, not the repetitious practice, sight word memorization, all those things that are overwhelming us. This is what should power up what you're doing so those things aren't taking over your instructional time. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will be back probably on Sunday unless I see an overwhelming number of comments recommending another day. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel by clicking, they always say the button below, but I don't see the button, so I'm not sure it's below. I think mine is off to the side. So anyway, if you subscribe, you will get an uplink to whenever it is going to be broadcast next. And then also I did put the link for the secret blast, because that's another way that I'll keep you informed. Last thing is, I am going to give a giveaway today. I'm going to do one giveaway that's for everybody. And that is, it's called Like a Snowball. It's a Secret Stories guided reader. I've already turned it on to free. It will stay free in the Teacher Pay Teacher store until midnight tonight. And I will put the link to it as well in the description. So now I have 3 things I need to put into the description. And then I'm also going to pick one of you from this big long list. I was going to do it live, but I don't have any idea how to do that because some of you are already up at the top of the feed. I can't see your comments anymore. So what I will probably do is, I have no idea what I will probably do. I have no idea how I'm actually going to do this, other than maybe just make my husband close his eyes and like point once I print out every single name. If I can figure out another way to do it, Rafflecopter's good, but I can't enter all of you into it. So if you have any suggestions for that, tell me. But either way, one of you, I promise, and I will post the name in the description, will be getting whatever kit you would like. If you have a kit already, maybe there's a different one you like those new decorative square posters or those Space Saver placards or those flashcards. So, but please leave in the comments also how I am supposed to do this on YouTube since there's no Rafflecopter. So I will do it anyway, and I promise it will be fair, and I'll have my eyes closed so that I won't know any names. So one of you will be listed, and I'll do that within the next hour as well. So thank you so much, and happy almost holiday. Good luck tomorrow. I know it's insane and crazy and just overwhelming in the classroom right now, but try to tell a secret. Jump online, grab a couple of them, toss them out tomorrow, and just watch the sparks fly. It's never too late. If your last hour of the last day of school, toss out a couple. It's one more tool that kid's going to have to bring to the writing and reading table that he didn't have before you gave it to him. So start playing with them. Thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you probably next Sunday, if not a different day, if that's what the comments request, but definitely within the week. So thanks so much for joining. Bye.